Hey guys, Dimension Master Studios here. How y'all doing? Coming at you guys with a bit of a different video this time around, with it being a tier list video. In today's video, I'm giving you guys my first ever tier list when it comes to my channel, with it being a Ninjago character tier list video. So let's do this whole thing. Although one thing that I do have to say though when it comes to this is that this list is only going to be going up to the events of Seabound, so no characters who have been introduced and crystallized are going to be on this tier list. And when it comes to the tier explanations, S tier is going to be for the best characters in the show. A tier is going to be for characters that I really like and think are amazing. B tier is going to be for characters who I think are really good. C tier is going to be for the characters who I think are okay. D tier is going to be for the characters that I'm not the biggest fan of. And E tier is going to be for some of my least favorite characters. And so, yeah, let's get into the whole thing. Starting off with the list, we have Chronics. And honestly, I'm going to be putting this guy in C tier. I think the Time Twins overall, they're just some pretty okay characters. Like, there isn't that much to say about them overall, and just, again, they're kind of okay, really, honestly. Up next, we have Akita, and I am putting her in S tier. I think that Akita is one of the absolute best characters in the entirety of the show. She is such a great and well-written character, honestly, and her bond dynamic that she has with Lloyd is just so amazing to see when it comes to the events of the Ice Chapter. And I feel like when it comes to Akita, she is easily the best character we have gotten ever since the movie. And Akita is easily my favorite female character and ninja ally in the entirety of the show. Just, she is amazing. Next, we have Antonia, and I'm going to be putting her in C tier. I think that when it comes to Antonia, she's an all right character. I just wish we got a chance to see her more, considering she's in like 2 episodes, and that's basically it. But hopefully, when it comes to Crystallize, we get a chance to see her more. I mean, that would be nice. Next, we have Ash, and I'm going to be putting him in C tier. The Elemental Masters overall, I feel they're just kind of okay characters, honestly, and there just isn't anything too big or major when it comes to these guys. Well, when it comes to some of them. Next, we have Aspira, and I'm also putting her in C tier. Like, she's just another okay character, honestly. I feel like she's a bit too one note for me personally, but the stuff she has going on with revenge and how they do this kind of stuff when it comes to Crystallize, I feel is done pretty well and funny at times. But again, overall, she's just kind of okay, really. Banjo is also going to be going in C tier. Again, she's just kind of an okay character, really, and that's all I have to say about her. Up next, we have Bentomar, and I'm putting him in B tier. I really like Bentomar. I think he's a great character, and the dynamic that he has with Calamar, his adopted brother, is really, really cool overall. And just he has a lot of really great moments during the events of Seabound. Just it's really great to see some of this stuff. Up next, we have Bolobo, and I'm putting him in C tier. Again, the Elemental Masters overall, I feel like they're just kind of okay, honestly. Up next, we have Camille, and I'm putting her in E tier. I think that when it comes to Camille, she is the worst out of all the Elemental Masters because she barely did or said anything during the events of the tournament. And during Hunted, she didn't even make an appearance at all. She was just briefly referenced, and that was it. And just overall, I really don't like Camille all too much. Up next, we have Chief Mamatus, and I'm going to be putting him in B tier. I think that when it comes to the Keepers, there's some pretty underrated characters, actually, and I just wish we got a chance to see them more. And again, when it comes to Chief Mamatus, I think he's a pretty cool character, although I do wish that we got a chance to actually hear his name be said during the show, because Chief Mamatus is actually one of only 2 characters in the entirety of the show where his name is never actually said. The only other one is Wraith or Wrath, one of the Ghost Generals in Season 5. So, that's something. Up next, we have Chen, and I am putting this guy in A tier. I really like Chen. This guy's absolutely hilarious, and I think that's really good. But when this guy can be intimidating and mean business, he means business. Just seriously. Chen can go from hilarious to terrifying in just a matter of seconds, and I think that's something really, really cool when it comes to this guy. Plus, I like the fact that when it comes to Chen, he's basically the one responsible for starting a ton of stuff when it comes to Ninjago, mainly the Serpentine Wars. That's definitely something pretty interesting. Up next, we have Clancy, and I'm going to be putting him in C tier. I think that Clancy overall was an alright character, really, and just that's really all I have to say about him, really. That's kind of it. Up next, we have Klaus, and I'm also going to put him in A tier. I think that Klaus is actually better than Chen, but that's mainly just because Klaus has shown up more when it comes to the show, mainly during Season 6, where he was the one responsible for unleashing Nautica in the first place, and during the Dark Island trilogy, where he's the main antagonist. That's really cool. Up next, we have Clutch Powers, and I'm going to be putting him in D tier, honestly. I think that when it comes to Clutch Power, he's pretty unlikable. Although I know that when it comes to the show, that's what they want you to think when it comes to Clutch Power. Just you're meant to not like him, but I just really, really don't like Clutch, honestly. Up next, we have Cole, and I'm putting him in S tier. I honestly really like all the ninja, and honestly, they're all going to end up going in S tier because I think that they are all really, really great and well done characters when it comes to the show. In fact, you know what? Here's Jay and here's Kai when it comes to this, so I'll put them in S tier too right now. And same thing goes with Lloyd since he's also here. Up next, we have Cryptor, and I'm putting him in A tier. I really like Cryptor. I like the fact that when it comes to Cryptor, he's basically meant to be an evil Zane. Like, that's really cool. And the fight scenes that the two of them have during the events of Rebooted is something really interesting, especially during their first major conflict during the second episode. That was something really, really cool. Up next, we have Cyrus Borg, and I'm going to be putting him in A tier. I really like the fact that when it comes to Cyrus Borg, he's an inventor. He uses his brain in order to try and help the ninja. Just that is really cool that we have a ninja where their main thing is thinking about stuff, really, and just again more of a technological thing instead of just brute force. That's definitely something pretty cool. We have Nia down here, so I'll put her in S tier too. Up next, we have Dareth. I'm going to be putting him in B tier. I really like Dareth. I think that he's a pretty funny and interesting character overall. Mainly funny, though, although his time period from season 6 through season 8, I really didn't like that, honestly, considering Dareth was basically just turning into a guy who wanted to get rich off ninja success, and that was basically it, and I really didn't like that, honestly. Next, we have Dogshank. Going to be putting her in B tier. I think that when it comes to Dogshank overall, she was an alright character, really. Definitely liking a lot of stuff that we had when it came to her. Especially the whole thing of her having honor, really, and preferring a fair fight compared to an unfair one. That is definitely something pretty interesting overall. Up next, we have Izor, and I'm putting him in D tier. Like, he was just kind of there when it came to tournament, and that's kind of it, honestly. Like, not much to say about him. Up next, we have Flintlock, and I'm going to be putting this guy in B tier. I really like Flintlock. I think he's a pretty good character overall, and I like the fact that when it comes to Flintlock, he was the first one to mutiny against Nikon because he realized that Jay was right. That is definitely something really, really cool, I think. Up next, we have the first Ninjutsu Master, and I'm also going to be putting him in B tier. I like the fact that when it comes to the first Ninjutsu Master, he's basically meant to represent God when it comes to the world of Ninjago. I just wish that we got a chance to see him a bit more when it comes to the show. Like, we've seen him briefly, but just, again, seeing him some more would definitely be nice. Even getting a chance to properly see his face would be cool. Up next, we have Garmadon, putting him in S tier. Garmadon, I think, is one of the best villains in the entirety of the show. The stuff that we have with him as a villain is so great, honestly. Especially during the Oni trilogy. I feel like Garmadon during the Oni trilogy is where he's at his best, honestly. Just, he is so great during that. And Garmadon was easily the best part of the Oni trilogy, I think. And I'm really excited to see what we end up getting with him during Crystallized. Up next, we have Goltar, and I'm putting him in E tier. I think that when it comes to Goltar, he's a pretty obnoxious character, honestly, who really isn't all that interesting. Like, there really isn't that much for me to say about him other than just that I think he's a pretty obnoxious character, and that's pretty much it. Like, he has a couple funny moments, but again, this guy is not funny. Up next, we have Gravis. Going to be putting him in C tier. Just, again, Elemental Masters overall, I think they're kind of okay. When it comes to Turner, though, I'm putting him in B tier. I like the fact that when it comes to Turner, him and a select few group of Elemental Masters, they were actually able to get some more screen time when it came into both tournaments and Hunted. That was something really cool. Plus, I also really like Turner's personality. That's definitely something pretty cool, I think, when it comes to him. Just, he's this real, just like cool and chill guy. That's definitely nice. Up next, we have Jacob. Going to be putting him in C tier. Like, he's just kind of okay. Up next, we have Calamar. I'm putting this guy in A tier. I really, really like Calamar. I think that he is a great villain overall. Just, he is such a great and well done villain, honestly. And like I said, when it came to Bentomar, the dynamic that the two of them have is really cool. And the fight scene that they have at the very end of Seabound is a really cool fight scene, honestly. Up next, we have Karloff. Going to be putting him in B tier. Karloff is my second favorite Elemental Master in the entirety of the show. I just really like this guy a lot, especially the whole thing of him being a gentle giant. I think that is something pretty cool, actually. Up next, we have Kataru, and I'm going to be putting this guy in C tier. I think he's just kind of okay, honestly. Like, there really isn't that much for me to say about him. Again, I just think he's kind of okay, honestly. Up next, we have Kozu. Going to be putting him in D tier. I think that when it comes to Kozu, he has a pretty cool design overall, and it's neat that he has the ability to speak both the Ninjago language and the Stone Army language. That's really cool, but that's pretty much all I can give this guy. Like, he really isn't all that interesting, honestly. Up next, we have Crux, and I'm putting this guy in C tier. Like, when it comes to Crux, I think, once again, he's just an okay character, honestly. He really isn't all that interesting, really. Although I do definitely like Achronix more compared to Crux, since Crux's whole thing is just, I hate modern technology, and that's basically it. Up next, we have Lily, and I'm putting her in B tier. Although we don't get that much of a chance to see Lily when it comes to the show, I do think that she is a really good character, especially for what she ends up meaning when it comes to Cole's story. That is definitely really great, honestly. And again, we don't get that much of a chance to see her, but for what we do get a chance to see, it is really, really good. In that brief flashback we see during the second Virtues of Spinjitzu sword, that was so great, honestly. Next, we have Makia, and I'm putting her in B tier. I think that overall, when it comes to Makia, she was the best new character we got during the event of Hands of Time, but I don't think that's saying much considering she was just, again, kind of okay, really. But I do definitely think that she was better compared to Crux and Chronix overall, but just, again, overall, she was okay, but I did definitely like her more than two of them. Up next, we have Maya, and I'm going to be putting her in B tier also. I like the stuff that we got with Maya when it comes to flashbacks and her during season 7, but I really wasn't the biggest fan of her during the events of Seabound. And just, I didn't like the changes that they made with her, and where they turned her into just a stereotypical cartoon mom. I wasn't the biggest fan of that. But overall, I just thought that Maya was, again, a pretty good character, and I think that the ninja parents overall, they're pretty good. Up next, we have Misako, and I'm also going to be putting her in B tier. Just, again, I think that the ninja parents, they're pretty good overall. And honestly, when it comes to Misako, she has kind of been growing on me a little bit, honestly. Like, not in a big way or anything. And, like, I still think that she's just kind of an alright character, really. But my opinions on her will be a bit less negative, I guess, compared to a few years ago. Up next, you have Monkey Wrench in. Honestly, I'm putting this guy in B tier. I mean, this guy's literally a mechanical monkey. That's just hilarious, honestly. Up next, we have Moro and Easy S tier. Moro is my absolute favorite villain when it comes to the show. This guy is such a great and well done character, and I really, really like his dynamic that he has with Sensei Wu. And his redemption arc that he has at the end of Possession is really good, and I like the fact that this carries over into Day of the Departed. That is so great. Next, we have Mistake, and I'm putting her in D tier, honestly. I think that Mistake is the worst mentor character we have gotten when it comes to Ninjago because of how vague she is about basically everything. I really, really didn't like that. And honestly, I feel like the twist of her being an Oni, it honestly comes out of nowhere and doesn't make a lot of sense, actually. Up next, we have Nanakon, and I'm putting this guy in A tier. I really like Nanakon. I think that he is an absolutely amazing character when it comes to the show. And I like the fact that when it comes to Nanakon, he's a really smart villain with him manipulating the ninja. I think that's really cool. Plus, also, I like the fact that when it comes to Nanakon, he's one of the few villains who the ninja never actually managed to defeat. That is really cool. Up next, we have Nelson, and I'm going to be putting this guy in B tier. I like the stuff that we have when it comes to Nelson so far, and I am definitely looking forward to the stuff that we're going to be getting with him during the events of Crystallize. Just, I'm really looking forward to that stuff. And Nelson overall, I think he's a pretty nice character overall. Up next, we have Miro, and I'm putting him in B tier. I like the fact that once again he's an elemental master who gets some more screen time. That's definitely something pretty cool. And I like the fact that when it comes to Nero, his whole thing is that he can read minds. That's a pretty cool thing that he has. And just again, it's nice that he shows up more compared to some of the other elemental masters. Up next, we have the Omega, and I'm putting him in E tier. I think that the Omega is honestly the most boring and basic character in the entirety of the show. Just this guy is really bland and uninteresting, and honestly, I just feel like he's a worse version of the Overlord. Speaking of which, though, up next we have the Overlord, and I'm putting this guy in S tier. I really like the Overlord. I think that he is honestly one of the best characters and villains in the entirety of the show. I like his obsession with prophecies that he has, and this big rivalry that he has going on with the first Ninjutsu Master. That is really, really cool, honestly. Up next, we have Pale Man, and I'm going to be putting him in B tier once again. And I like the fact that when it comes to Pale Man, he gets some more screen time, and his whole thing of him being able to turn invisible is definitely something pretty interesting, honestly. Up next, we have Pixel, and I'm going to be putting her in A tier. I definitely like Pixel. I think she's a great character, although I do wish that we had a bit of a chance to see her more, honestly. But for the stuff that we got with Pixel so far, it is definitely really great. especially with some of the stuff with her and Zane. Just the dynamic that the two of them have is pretty good, honestly, with both them being robots. Up next, we have Pythor, and I'm putting him in A tier. What is there to say about Pythor that hasn't already been said? This guy is just so great, honestly. Like, seriously, he can have you laughing at one moment, but at the same time, he can have you be terrified in another moment. And you can tell that when it comes to Pythor, just pretty much in any situation he's in, he's just having fun with the whole situation. And I definitely really like that, honestly. Again, when it comes to Pythor, no matter what's going on, he's just having fun with it. Next, we have Racer 7, and I'm putting her in D tier, honestly. When it comes to Racer 7, she's basically a worse version of Okino, honestly. Like, seriously. She has the exact same story arc as Okino, but shortened down to be in one episode, and I really didn't like that. And just, she really isn't that interesting. Also, for some reason, Okino isn't on this tier list, but if he were in this tier list, he would be going up in A tier, because I really like Okino. Next, we have Ray, and I'm going to be putting him in B tier. When it comes to Ray, I think he's a pretty good character overall. And again, when it comes to Ninja Parents, I just think they're all right characters overall. Definitely like them. Up next, we have Ronin. I'm going to be putting him into B tier. I really like Ronin. I think he's a pretty great character overall, especially the whole idea of him being a mercenary. But I really did not like him during the island. And I felt like the idea of Ronin being just the main villain, that could have been done well. But just the whole thing when it comes to Ronin with it, and scaring the keepers with Tales of Wajira and everything. Just, I really didn't like that because it felt like Ronin was being a bit too out of character. Like, I know Ronin's whole thing is that he loves money and he's willing to do anything in order to get it, but that honestly felt like he was going too far. Up next, we have Samukai, and I'm also going to be putting him in B tier. I think that when it comes to Samukai, he's a pretty cool character overall. I just wish we got a chance to see him more, considering he was in the pilot season, Day of the Departed, a brief flashback during season 2, and that was basically it. Again, just wish we got a chance to see him more. We have Zane down here, and I'm going to be putting him in S tier. Zane is my absolute favorite ninja and character when it comes to the show. This guy's just absolutely amazing. And he's been my favorite character ever since I got my first Ninjago set back in 2011. So that is definitely really great, honestly. Up next, we have Scott, and I'm putting this guy in E tier. I think that Scott is one of the worst ninja allies in the entirety of the show. My main issue with Scott is that he does basically nothing all throughout the events of Prime Empire. He pretty much just sits around in his garage while the ninja go out and do stuff. And then when Scott finally does do something, fending off the red visors, giving the ninja a chance to escape, he dies as a result. And just, again, I didn't like Scott when it came to the events of Prime Empire. Up next, we have Shade, and I'm putting this guy in B tier. Once again, it's nice that we have another Elemental Master who has some more screen time when it comes to the show. And I like Shade's whole thing of him basically having teleportation. And that's really cool. Up next, we have the Skull Sorcerer. I'm putting him in A tier. I really like the Skull Sorcerer. I like the idea that when it comes to the Skull Sorcerer, he's basically just meant to be like some kind of regular businessman, essentially, when you look at it. Because, think about it, when it comes to the Skull Sorcerer, his main thing is just that he wants money in order to pay for all the stuff in Shintaro, and he's basically willing to do anything in order to get it. That is definitely something pretty interesting. Plus, also, I really like the Skull of Hazador, and that's where, and how that is basically what gives the Skull Sorcerer all of his powers. That is really great. Also, I think that the Skull Sorcerer has the best design of any villain in the entirety of the show. It is so great. Up next, we have Skylar, and I'm also going to be putting her in A tier. I really like Skylar. I think that she is a great character overall. And I like the fact that when it comes to Skylar, her whole thing is that she can replicate elemental powers. That is really cool. Also, the idea of her being Chen's daughter, I think that twist was actually executed pretty well, honestly. Up next, we have Soul Archer, and I'm going to be putting him in B tier. I like the fact that when it comes to Soul Archer, he has this whole dynamic with Ronin, with Ronin owning him and dead. Just, that's pretty cool, I think. But again, I just wish we got a chance to see him a bit more, and that was fleshed out a bit. That could have been something pretty cool. Although I do like the fact that when it comes to Soul Archer, his arrows actually have the ability to turn things into ghosts. That is really cool. Up next, we have Tox, and I'm putting her in D tier, honestly. I think that Tox was just kind of okay, honestly. Like, she didn't do or say all that much during the events of the tournament. Actually, didn't say anything during tournament, and she only started to speak during Hunted. And just, again, overall, when it comes to Tox, wasn't the biggest fan of her. Up next, we have Twitchy Tim, and I'm putting him in E tier. I think that Twitchy Tim is honestly the worst ninja ally in the entirety of the show. I think that Twitchy Tim is basically a worse version of Scott, and I just really don't like him. especially considering the fact that when it comes to Twitchy Tim, I just think this guy is really obnoxious. I really don't like him. Up next, we have Unagami, and I'm putting this guy in A tier. I really like Unagami. I like his whole story of him basically being abandoned by Milton Dyer and wanting answers as to why this happened. That is really cool. Plus, also, I like the fact that when it comes to Unagami, he is in complete control of Prime Empire and is like the main final boss of the game. That is really cool. And the similarities between him and Jay are definitely something pretty interesting. Up next, we have Vanya, and I'm going to be putting her in C tier, honestly. When it comes to Vanya, I think that overall she's an okay character. Like, I think she has a good personality, but compared to other ninja allies, I think that she's just honestly kind of boring, really. And she just isn't as good compared to some of the other ninja allies, especially some of the amazing wild ranking ninja allies we have gotten. But again, she has a good personality, so that's definitely nice. Plus, also, she's a love interest for Cole, so that's something cool. Up next, we have Vex, and I am putting this guy in A tier. I really like Vex. I think that overall, Vex is an amazing character and antagonist. I like the fact that his whole thing is just manipulating people. That is definitely something really cool. Plus, also at the same time, when it comes to that, I just like the whole idea that the reason why he's doing all this stuff is because he's really paranoid and fearful towards the world. That I think is a really cool angle for them to take when it comes to an Ninjago antagonist. It's definitely nice. Up next, we have Wu, and I'm putting him in A tier. I definitely really like Wu. I think he's a really good character overall. The dynamic that he has with Garmadon when we do get a chance to see the two of them together is definitely really nice. Plus, also, I like the fact that when it comes to Wu, he's a father figure to the ninja. That's definitely something really cool, and he's able to bring out the best in people. That's definitely nice. Up next, we have Yang, and I'm going to be putting him in B tier. I think that the concept for Yang is really good. The idea of him being this villain who's introduced earlier on when it comes to the show that they just kind of build up into for him to eventually take some kind of bigger role in the future season. That is definitely something really cool overall, and I just wish we got a chance to see him a bit more when it comes to the show. That would have been nice. Plus, also, I like the fact that when it comes to Yang, he isn't actually evil or a bad guy, considering he just wants to be remembered. That I think is definitely something pretty interesting overall. Up next, we have Captain Soto, and I'm going to be putting him in C tier overall. When it comes to Captain Soto, I think he's an alright character. Like, he had some pretty good moments during Skybound, but that's really all I can give him, really. But he was definitely great during that season overall. Up next, we have Chutoy, and I'm just going to be putting him as well as just pretty much a majority of the Dragon Hunters in C tier. I thought that they were just kind of okay overall, really. They weren't too interesting, honestly. They were just kind of there. Faith, on the other hand, I am putting her in A tier. I really like Faith. I think that she is a great character, honestly, when it comes to the show. And I feel like when it comes to Faith, she is easily the best new character we had gotten when it comes to the Oni trilogy. Just, she is really great, honestly. Up next, we have Fugidove, and I'm putting him in E tier. I think that when it comes to Fugidove, this guy is just so obnoxious, honestly. I feel like when it comes to Fugitive, they're trying to basically do an evil version of Dareth, but Fugitive is nowhere near as funny as Dareth. Like, he has his moments here or there, but again, this guy is not funny, and I really do not like him when it comes to Crystallized at all. Up next, we have the Mechanic, and I am putting him in A tier. I really like the Mechanic. I think it's cool that when it comes to the Mechanic, he's basically just kind of worked his way up through the rank instead of villain. Even when he comes to Ninjago, starting off as more of a low-ranking grunt, working his way up to be considered one of the greatest villains in all of Ninjago since he's on the Council of the Crystal King. That is definitely really cool, and he is definitely a really funny villain. And when he has some comedic moments, honestly, he's not as funny as Chen, I think, but he is definitely really funny when he can be. In contrast, though, we have Misdemeanor, and I'm putting her in D tier. I think she's basically a worse version of the Mechanic, honestly. And she's also pretty obnoxious, honestly. I really don't like Misdemeanor all that much, and there really isn't all that much I can say about her. Up next, we have Scales, and I'm going to be putting him in B tier. I think that Scales overall is a pretty cool character. I like the fact that when it comes to Scales, he was initially the second in command of the Hypno Bride before he became the general and eventually the leader of all the Serpentine after Pythor seemingly died during the events of season 1. That was definitely really cool. And I like the fact that he's now an ally to the ninja. That is definitely cool. Up next, we have Doubloon, and I'm going to be putting him in C tier, honestly. When it comes to Doubloon, I think he's an alright character, honestly. I do like the fact that when it comes to Doubloon, he has the ability to use Spinjitzu. That is really cool. As well as also the whole thing of him only being able to show one of two faces. Like, that's definitely interesting, but that's pretty much all I can give him. Up next, we have Harumi, and I've made my opinion on Harumi very, very clear when it comes to my channel, honestly. So for those of you who don't know, and this is your first video, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think that Harumi is the worst character in the show. I really, really don't like Harumi. I have made so many videos going over Harumi and how much I don't like her and why I think that Harumi is a really bad character. So please go check those videos out because I don't want to repeat myself too much. But just again, when it comes to Harumi, I just think that she is a terribly written and a completely unlikable character when it comes to Ninjago. I really don't like her. Up next, we have Iron Baron, and I'm putting him in D tier, honestly. I think that Iron Baron's just an alright character. Like, I think he's the best new villain we got during the Oni trilogy, but I don't think that's saying much, and just, he's kind of okay, really, and again, that's the most I can give him, really. But he's pretty bland overall, I think. Up next, we have Kilo, and I'm putting him in Ultraviolet in C tier. I just think they're okay characters, honestly. I think it's pretty interesting that when it comes to Ultraviolet, the whole thing is just that she's psychotic. Like, that's definitely something kind of interesting. And I like the fact that when it comes to Kilo, we've seen him a bit more, mainly when it comes to season 11, and with him working on his painting. And I do think that is kind of funny, and he has warmed up to me a little bit, honestly. But overall, I still don't like him all that much. Finally, that leaves us with Mr. E, and I'm putting him in B tier. I definitely really like Mr. E. I think that he was the best new character we got during the events of Sons of Garmadon. And then just he is a really cool and mysterious character. That is really great, honestly. And I like the fact that he even made a return appearance during the events of Crystallize as Mr. F. That's definitely really great. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. This is the whole of my tier list and everything, if you guys want to take a look at it. And so, yeah, this is just my tier list slash ranking of a whole bunch of characters when it comes to Ninjago. And so that's pretty much all I got for you guys. So tell me down below, what do you guys think? What is your guys' personal tier list when it comes to Ninjago characters? Tell me down below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Later, guys, this is Dimension Master Studios signing off.